Hello, my friends. Today we've got new Russian advances that are honestly shocking. Let's start right away with the Pokrovsk direction. Near the town of Rodynske and Krasnyi Lyman, the Russians managed to advance 4 kilometers 700 meters across the fields. Their movement is clearly aimed toward the village of Hryshine. You're probably thinking this must be a mistake, that this just can't be happening because it looks like some kind of encirclement. But let's take a closer look at why this happened. Ukrainian soldiers published a video showing how they destroyed Russians outside Rodynske in the fields. Based on the footage, this all happened on the territory of the APK Invest Meat Processing Plant. That means the Russians are moving along the road that leads directly to Hryzhine. We can also see from new videos uploaded by Ukrainian fighters that the Russians are advancing from Pokrovsk toward this same road. And if we measure from the gray zone, the Russians need just 1 kilometer 300 meters to fully connect the front line. From the red zone, about 2 kilometers 300 meters. And let's not forget that this entire area is under fire from FPV drones. What to call this situation, I think you'll tell me in the comments, but it's starting to look like a disaster. Of course, it's possible that the Russians reached the meat plant in small numbers, but the fact that they're already being spotted and destroyed there is undeniable. And the fact that they advanced directly forward suggests that Ukrainian troops no longer physically controlled this area, because if Ukrainian units had been holding defensive positions inside those buildings, we could see videos of Russians storming the facility and being pushed back. Instead, we see them simply moving and Ukrainians hitting them with FPV drones. Unfortunately, that's not all. In addition to advance near Rodynske, Russians also moved 2 kilometers across the fields in the southern part of Marnograd. So far, there is no confirmed information that Ukrainian forces have withdrawn from Sumy Yar and Lysivka, but such reports are appearing. We are waiting for a confirmed map update. As we can see, the situation here continues to gradually deteriorate, which is very worrying. Everyone understands that once Pokrovsk and Mirnograd fall, the Russians will begin pushing forward more aggressively, knowing they entering open terrain. Friends, share your thoughts about this in the comments. Meanwhile, in the Dobropillia area, there are no new changes. The Russians are attacking Dorozhny and trying to break through in the direction of Bilitske, but the front line hasn't changed there in the past day. And now let's move on to the situation in the Novopavlivka area. The Russians managed to enter the outskirts of the town and fortify their positions. Because of this, the Ukrainian forces are now actively destroying them there. In addition, the Russians have practically encircled Dachne, and the situation there has seriously deteriorated. It seems likely that the front line will soon level out in this area and the fighting will continue only for Novopavlivka. Unfortunately, yesterday the Russians already started claiming that they had captured most of the settlement and were pushing further. During the last 3 days, the Russian army made significant advances in the locality of Novopavlivka and captured most of the residential area on the eastern shore of the Solona River. For now, we are waiting for official confirmation from the Ukrainian side. But Ukrainian soldiers are unofficially reporting that the clearing operation is going well. The clearing in Novopavlivka continues. The number of occupying forces is rapidly decreasing. The total number of swamp creatures that broke into the village is smaller than that was reported yesterday. The situation has been more or less brought under control, and hopefully the village will return to full Ukrainian control. But of course, such breakthroughs like the one that happened are a pretty worrying sign. In the direction of the settlement of Pokrovsk in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the situation is uncertain. The Russians claim they have captured Sosnivka and Orostopil and are already advancing further. However, according to the Ukrainian General Staff, fighting for Sosnivka is still ongoing, and the Russians are trying to break through toward Novoalexandrivka. There is also a large number of shelling, but no territorial changes have been recorded over the past day, so for now, we are waiting to see how this situation develops. Meanwhile, the situation near Huliaipole has deteriorated and very rapidly. Today, as a result of yet another breakthrough, Russian forces are already advancing toward the village of Varvarivka, a sultan, Zeleny High, which is practically encircled, and have a shelling Huliaipole itself. So far, stopping the Russian advance quickly hasn't been possible. Moreover, a new geolocated point has appeared on the map showing where Russians once again executed Ukrainian soldiers who attempted to surrender. This happened near the village of Huliaipole. Because of this, there is a possibility that Russian forces have pushed significantly closer. Overall, the situation here is very bad. In the Zaporizhia direction, the loss of Molotokmachka hasn't been confirmed yet, so we're waiting for official statements. Meanwhile, the Russians continue assaulting Stepove, Stepnohirsk, and Primorsk. Activity in this area has begun to increase, but over the past day there have been no confirmed changes along the front line. In the Kherson direction, and the Russians are trying to break through near the Antonievsky Bridge and are intensifying shelling of the right bank. However, they have achieved no success, and the front line hasn't changed over the past day. Now let's move on to the situation in the area of Konstantinivka. Here, the Russians are assaulting Protechine, the outskirts of Konstantinivka, Pleshiyivka, and Klebanbyk, and breaking through near Rusinyar and Poltavka. But just like before, there have been no changes over the past day, and despite the difficult situation, their defense is holding. In the Kramatorsk direction, the Russians are attempting to break through toward the village of Minkivka today, but they aren't achieving any success, and the front line has remained unchanged over the past day. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are pushing toward Siversk, assaulting Zvanivka, and advancing beyond Fedorivka. But for now, the defense is still holding here, and there have been no changes over the past day. In the Liman direction, attacks continue near Zarychne and Kolodeze. The Russians are storming Drobышеvo, Novoselivka, Korovy Yar, and Novomykhailivka, and pushing through near Shandrigolove and Karpivka. But here, the front line also remains unchanged. However, Ukrainian soldiers report that the front line is still gradually shifting, not in our favor. The Liman direction is one of the areas where the Russians continue active offensive operations and have achieved significant gains over the past year. For some reason, most people pay attention only to those parts of the front where the Russians advance quickly and suddenly. But the Liman direction is more about a whole chain of events whose slow and steady progression led to what we are seeing now. The fall of Terne, the Serebrenka forest, and now basically fighting for Liman. They aren't storming and won't try to storm the city head on. They've been bypassing the flanks in advance, Yampil and Robosheva. In the latter, they have periodic gains and are trying to push their Russians toward the Siversky Donets River to cut off our forces on the other side. The situation is difficult. Some units are doing a decent job holding the line, but without active countermeasures, we are simply buying time. In the Borova direction, the Russians are assaulting Boguslavka, breaking through toward Novoplatonivka, and are attacking Novoyegorivka. However, activity here isn't very high, and so far all attacks are being successfully repelled. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians continue to push into the southern part of Kupiansk and near Peshane. So far, the Russians haven't made any gains, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Veliki Burluk direction, the Russians are assaulting Dvorichansk, but they haven't made any progress, and the front line remains stable. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians continue attacking Vovchansk, but they haven't achieved any new gains, and the front line hasn't changed over the past 24 hours. In the Sumy direction, the Russians are advancing near Varachine, but the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks, so the situation remains stable. Meanwhile, the president of Finland commented on Russia's progress in this war.
In World War II, Stalin was in Berlin in 4 years. We're almost 4 years into the war, and Russia is nowhere near Kiev, and they're not going to get there.
There is some truth to this, but drones and the internet have dramatically changed the way wars are fought. So it's hard to compare this war to World War II. Friends, make sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.